But Dricus Du Plessis, DDP, in that middleweight fight, the rematch against Sean Strickland, he came through as a unanimous winner after 5 rounds. And only one of the judges did not give him every single round, but it was a pretty convincing win against Sean Strickland. What did you make of that bout at UFC 312?
Trump's boy beat Trump's boy. I don't know if you can make sense of that. He gave him all the beating that the Afro Forum can hand to someone. And I think, yeah, man, Sean, I think one of the analysts said it better in terms of, you're not the guy that you sold this. You said you want to fight to the death. You said, let's make a pact, let's fight, what, and you never brought any of that. And I think that's disappointing in terms of Sean Strickland, because if you want the belt, you have to take it. You don't just edge it. You don't just, I think I'll give it to him. If you want the belt, you go out there and you fight. That's why in the first fight, when you look at that fight, as contentious as it was, what Dricus was bringing was roundhouse kicks, was elbows, was takedowns, was forward pressure all the time. Whereas, as he says jokingly, that all Sean Strickland gives you is a jab and a teep kick, and that's what he did as well in this other fight. And you're like, dude, you said you wanted the belt back. You said you wanted to make things clear, set the record straight that you won that one. You didn't do that. So on Sean's part, very disappointing. But on Dricus' part, I think well handled in terms of measuring each round, doing what's necessary for each round, and then putting on the pace. I think in round 3, 4, and 5, he broke his nose. I think he was obviously more dominant, and I think in his first fights in a long time, he didn't look awkward. I don't know if that's because he didn't have to push as much. He wasn't as desperate to win a fight, but he looked more composed. He looked more technically sound, I would say. So I think good showing, and I think it puts him in a good spot right now, because not only did you defend your belt, now people are thinking, okay, how does he fare against Chimaev? How does he fare against Pereira? Because now he's on a win streak, number one. Number two, he doesn't look as awkward, looks more composed. He executed one takedown, but he didn't need takedowns to win against Strickland. So I think good showing all in all. You can't really complain about that.
Yeah, Chuck, on the side of Sean Strickland, you gave us nothing. And his cornerman kept on asking him to do more, and he seemed as if he was ignoring them and was not taking the advice on board. And it was rather strange for me, because it was very obvious, other than maybe that third round, that Dricus was ahead, right? And you wanted to see more, but he didn't give more. And on the side of Dricus, though, Chuck, what I saw over the weekend was a fighter who's growing in terms of the strings to his bow, right? Because as you say, he didn't look awkward. He looked more technically sound. I mean, he didn't even try a takedown until like late in the third round for the first time, and then he did it maybe once or two other times. The fact that he didn't feel that he needed to go to that, in my mind, I was looking at that and thinking, there's a game plan that's been prepared here, and there's also a challenge that has been set to him in terms of, this is where we want to go. This is the next evolution that we want to see of you as a fighter from his camp, and he stuck to the plan, because he even spoke about the fact that when he saw the broken nose and the blood gushing from the nose of Sean Strickland, of course those are shock infested waters at that point, and you want to go in for the kill. And he says that he was excited, but then he pulled back, because and as I'm saying, he seemed to be thinking about the fact that he must be disciplined, and he was, right? And in terms of him coming up against the guy who's a striker, and he traded blows with him and came out on top, it's exemplary on his end. And the fact that the awkwardness that came out was for Sean, because he's kicking and punching at the same time. This is DDP. Like, it's coming from all corners. Like, he used his kick very well, particularly his high kick to keep Strickland off balance. And overall, it was such a polished fight from him. And when you do know that he's got that explosiveness, he's got the takedowns in him, and he is able to go to that game plan if he needs it, I think this spells like danger time for future opponents, because, as I'm saying, it seems as if the skill set has grown.
I think last on Sean Strickland, Jay, I think other than being knocked out by Alex Pereira, he's been beaten obviously before, right? But no one has knocked him out. And Dricus himself said that he's tough. And if people say you're tough and you know you're tough, sometimes bite down on the gum shield and go for it, because you are going to take punches, and you can take punches and try to execute your game. Because I think he was interviewed by Brett Okamoto, and they were like, dude, every time we see your videos online when you're in the gym sparring or you're beating up a YouTuber, you're pushing the pace, you're putting on the beat down. Why don't we ever see that in the cage? And he was like, well, these guys in the cage are high level. Give me someone who's weak and I'll do that to you, do that for you every other day. But the guys who are high level, I have to be cautious about. I can respect that. But if you want the belt, and if you know that you're tough and you can take most of these punches, why not? Because if you're saying to the death, is this not the time to go to the death in search for glory, in search for the belt? They didn't show up. As you're saying, the cornerman was saying, my man, you have to do more than what you did. You're doing the same thing as the last fight. Do more. Okay, you need a knockout now. There was same output from Sean Strickland. So, well, a total shout out, and there are no complaints about this one.
Where DDP is concerned, afterwards, he said that he's definitely top 3, pound for pound. Do you agree with that?
I think the rankings will get him high because, I mean, every win counts in your favor, right? And so there will be Islam ahead of him. There will probably be Alex Pereira ahead of him. And the guys who would have been ahead of him have since lost. So someone like a Leon Edwards would probably regress and go down. Someone like a Valentina Shevchenko has gone down as well. So I think maybe he goes there, but I wouldn't put him that high personally. I wouldn't.
Because I'm thinking of the guys that you counted out. There's Islam, there is Pereira. I think Eliato Pereira, but pound for pound might still be better than DDP. Would you have anybody else ahead of him?
It could be Uto Pereira, but I think the thing is the number of fights at the top level, because he's just passed out of nowhere. Because like, oh, this guy's actually good. Then he beats Volk, and then he beats Smash, and you're like, okay, this guy's properly good. So I don't know if that already shouts you to the top, because obviously the resume is not too shabby, right? There's Izzy, there's Strickland twice, there's Robert Whittaker as well. So you're like, okay, this guy's decent, and also as being champion, because I think when you hold gold, it holds a bit more weight. Ahead of him, Jay, I think I wouldn't have Bilal Muhammad. I know it's not just a striking thing, but Bilal Muhammad is boring. I don't want to put him at the top of any pound for pound. So not him. Usman has been inactive. Let me see.
Jones?
No, inactive. He's staying as pound for pound all the time, but I think we need activity.
Yeah.
I
we
think
need to see you.
If you look at Pantoja can go up higher than him. I think he's done well. Marab can go ahead of Dricus, but I think only those two names. Then it's fair at that point.
And then final question on this one. Of course, the question is there no one else? Who do you think should be next? Should it be Chimaev or should it be Alex Pereira?
I think, well, according to Dricus, he wants to clean out the middleweight division first and then move up to 205. And I don't know how much time he has, and I don't know what his schedule looks like. Maybe he might fit in 2 fights, which means maybe the Chimaev, maybe Imavov if he defends both titles, then Pereira at the start of next year. That would be ideal for him, right? But because there's this intrigue, Jay, because he's beaten Whittaker, so has Chimaev, who else have they fought in common? I can't think of anyone else. But it seemed like, even though the rankings don't show it, that he's the boogeyman. He's the guy who should be next. He's the guy who's making a tear in the division, right? So I think it makes sense because the questions are always there. The questions won't go away. We have to answer the Chimaev question in terms of Dricus Du Plessis and then Pereira, because I think also you don't go Pereira then Chimaev, because I think the power that's up there, it might just derail you. Do Chimaev. If you go past that, then you're buoyed and you're like, okay, I can conquer the world. You go to Chimaev, because as I said, Dricus says of Strickland that it's hard to put away, not according to Pereira. So it's steps, baby steps. Do Chimaev first, and if you go past that, then go to Pereira.
Yeah, we'll see if Trump's man is able to trump over everybody that comes against him, because he's laid down the challenge, and don't take nothing away from me. He looked good. And if you're going to step into the ring with DDP, you better have your A game